So we did this testing. You looked at drift maps. You looked at, your always on analysis. Tell us any surprises for you in the report?
I wouldn't say I was surprised. I think that at a high level, it sounds like this is something relatively straightforward, pretty easy thing. You have GPS, everyone's kind of aware of what that is. You have to communicate some information to your phone, everyone kind of understands how that works. But making it all work, making it work reliably, making it work in the real world is extremely difficult to do. It sounds easy, but it's really hard. So when we ran the analysis, we were not surprised really to see the disparity in performance between Halo and these competitive products. And that's really because we've been doing this kind of thing for over 30 years. We have tons of experience and we know how to make this technology work and work reliably. And we know it's really hard to do. So when we look at the competitors' products, it was really not too surprising to see that they didn't take these things into account. They didn't address real world issues that are going to happen every day to our customers. And making that seamless and making things just work is actually very hard.
So if we could dig in, can we name the competitors that you actually looked at?
Sure. We ran this analysis against 3 products that we generally see in our marketplace that are more direct competitors. And the ones we tested were the PetSafe Guardian 2.0 product, which is pretty new to the market, the Satellite or Saddle AI GPS fence, which is also pretty new to the market, and the Spot On fence, which has been in the market for a while, similar to Halo as well.
Okay. So in kind of looking through the report, I think what set you apart, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may very well be, it's the always on technology that is part of the Halo. Is that the key difference?
Well, it's one difference that's very important. I think there are a lot of significant differences really in a lot of areas, but always on is very important. It really, and the way we look at always on is in 2 ways. One is leaving the GNSS or GPS receiver on all the time and why that's so important. Even when your dog's indoors, I think most of the people watching will know that GPS generally works only outdoors. When you're inside a building or a house, it's generally blocked. The signals from a satellite are generally blocked. So most customers will assume that when you can't get connectivity to the GPS satellites, maybe you turn off the GPS receiver to save power, to extend the battery life. And I think what we noticed is some of these competitive products do just that, but that really is to the detriment of the performance, both really when you first go outside. So we know that dogs spend a lot of time indoors. We know when they go outside, that's really when they're at the highest risk. They may be running out the front door, for example, and running out into the street. So you want a product that will detect that quickly and be accurate really quickly in that critical transition from going indoors to outdoors. And there's a lot of aspects to making that work that are very difficult. And that's what a lot of our tests focused on. And always on is one of the key things that allows Halo to be super accurate, super quickly. But we also consider always on to be always connected to the internet, always connected to you, to your phone, because you need peace of mind. So it's really important that the collar does what it's supposed to do with your dog, but it's also really important that you could be confident that if something were to happen, you're aware of it right away and you're not waiting for connectivity issues or disconnection between the collar and your phone. And always on is also about being always on the internet.
And this seems it is so important, but I honestly didn't appreciate how important it was. And I've got an example or story for you. A friend recently had her husband had to go to the hospital and she asked, can she bring her dog over? Dog's been with her and then all the time, never leaves the house. Dog came over, was so restless, up and down, pacing, upset. So I slept on the couch with the dog and I'm near, a big glass window, right? And a sliding glass door. I'm groggily. I'm like, oh, the dog's staring out the window, probably needs to go to the bathroom. I open the door, go to make myself a cup of coffee, come to find out that she left the gate open, when she dropped off the dog. And when I went out to find the dog, I was like, where is she? Way down the street. I have the Halo collar here because I do rescue dogs. I hadn't put it on the dog. And I freaked out and I had that moment of like panic, like, what am I going to do? Fortunately, a neighbor, came to the rescue, saw the dog and I ran out with my pajamas on and embarrassed myself. But, everything had a happy ending there. But I could see, there's a sliding glass window, right? So you're on the inside of your house, probably on the home Wi-Fi, but in a split second, you got to switch up to the GPS. So there is that real world kind of experiment. And I think with the other callers, do you call it drift? I mean, there's just, it takes a while for that to actually update. And that update could be critical, right?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let me just start by saying your scenario that you just went through is really exactly what Halo is meant for. You may have a gate, you may have a fence, but it could be left open. And with a gate, with a fence, people have potentially a false set of confidence that their dog is safe. But really, we already know that we have 10 million dogs running away every year, 1 million getting hit by cars. So we know it's a major problem. And that's not necessarily, in a lot of those cases, it's the exact example you gave. So that's really why Halo exists in the first place, to stop that. And then continuing with your story, that's why you need to keep Halo on your dog even while your dog's indoors. It's not a product that you can just simply put on when your dog goes outside, because your dog could run out the door really at any time, every time you open the door. So if you want real peace of mind, you want to keep Halo on your dog all day long while your dog's indoors, while your dog's outdoors. And then next, you bring up a very important thing, which is while your dog is indoors, generally, a lot of dogs like to hang out by the window, and they do that because they're looking for their owner to come back. They're in the house, they're waiting for you to come home, or they think someone's coming. So they like to look out the window, or I know my dogs do, and I'm sure most of you realize that that's what your dogs like to do. But for GPS, that's really a very difficult scenario. All the satellite data is coming from one direction because your house is blocking the other direction. And that tends to cause what we call drift or false positioning of the GPS. It really generally pulls the location away from your home, sometimes across the street, sometimes even multiple blocks away. So you get these kind of scenarios with GPS when your dog sits in a window looking outside, or sometimes when your dog just goes right outside, is waiting by the back door for you to let it in. Again, half your house is blocking the GPS signal. So all the data is coming from one direction. That causes this kind of incorrect positioning. So dealing with that is not easy. It's actually extremely challenging. And doing it took years for Halo to really get right. And we're very happy with the results of what we've been able to do. But when we look at the competitor products, you'll see the exact issues I'm describing. You'll see positions moving 100, 200, 300 meters away, like multiple blocks away. And then when the dog does go outside during our testing, you'll see the position starting 300 meters away and maybe not even recovering, or maybe taking minutes to finally get the right position for your dog. So clearly during that window of time, your dog's not safe. And if it's in the house when this drift is happening, it may get feedback from the collars thinking the dog's running out of the fence when in fact the dog's just sitting in the house. So these things are really important, both for the safety of your dog when they first go outside, but also to keep them from getting what we would call false feedback while they're inside. And it's very hard to get that right.
Thinking about it too, and I hadn't really appreciated this until now. Part of the collar, right? It's a training collar, right? So we're trying to teach the dog where the boundaries are, what's safe, what's not safe, what to do in these circumstances. So if the dog is getting this bad feedback, how are they ever going to learn?
Right. I think that's a very good point. Is consistency with rules is definitely very important for dogs. I will say that Halo takes a little bit of a different philosophy on memorization of the boundaries. We really believe that your dog should be memorizing how to respond to the Halo, to the feedback. But to have a truly portable product, your dog should recognize what to do no matter where it is and how to react to Halo. And by the way, that was one of the other major findings from our testing, is all the products attempted to give feedback, some not consistently, some not all of the time. Of course, Halo gave feedback every time. Giving feedback to the dog is very important, but the dog also needs to understand the feedback. We talked about that last time, and it has to be intuitive so they know what to do when they get feedback. And really all three products were, in our opinion, very counterintuitive for the dog and likely to lead to dogs that leave the fence because they don't know what to do even when they get the feedback, and they end up running away. So the only real solution the competitive products have for that is for your dogs to truly memorize the boundaries using things like flags and lines, but then you don't have a portable solution. Then it only works in a location where they're fully trained to be.
Well, and not to mention there are any myriad numbers of different conditions, with the weather, with trees, with tall buildings, and you might, be traveling. So it's really important, I think, that the most accurate information is available to the owner of the dog. And I want to talk more about just kind of these real life scenarios, Michael, and how this study kind of informed you as how Halo is going to perform in the real world. So super great to have you here again, Michael. Let's have you back again in a week or so, and we'll talk more about the Halo Caller 5.
Great. Well, thank you again for having me. Thank you to everyone out there.
All righty.